Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the big focus here for Fnatic should be to take the pressure off of Reckless, right? Don't make him be the only guy that can do damage. Don't leave him in a position where nobody can protect him. You know, so that involves different picks, perhaps. That involves different choices as far as like decisions that Clyde might make. You know, again, don't flash ahead and ult when you should be kind of sticking back there and maybe making sure Reckless lives to do more damage. I think if Fnatic can do that, they've got a good chance. I mean, they showed us they can win against this team. They can do it in Game 3.
I'm really interested to see whether or not RNG have figured out some of the buttons to push. Because in Game 2, they quite clearly outclassed Fnatic in games.
Yep.
So if they find those champion matchups that are a little more comfortable, they might be able to just outskill Fnatic.
Well, this is the thing, too. I said take away some of the weirder picks that they've been using. We don't see a lot of Zed in the current meta. We don't see hardly any Jhin, just very sparingly ever since its release. And now they're forcing Fnatic back on more standard picks. That's where Royal wants to be in this series, because they should have confidence that they can just out-team fight them, as we saw in the last game. I do have to say, I like being able to see the pick and ban before I make a prediction. It's like my favorite part. Because having to predict when you don't know what the choices have been made, how that actually aligns to team strengths and matchups between the teams.
Are you just
really
trying to justify the fact that you've made mistakes in the past?
That's
literally what you're doing.
I will never admit to making previous mistakes, Trevor.
Okay, for incorrectly predicting winners.
It's true, he won't.
It's a different angle, right? It's not a mistake. It's a, you know what I mean?
It's just an alternate timeline.
Yes,
you know?
that's right. I actually
right.
predicted the correct winner in an alternate universe.
That's right.
So
Okay.
it's all about parallel universes. You know, we're constantly splitting universes at every possible moment.
You've watched too much Fringe, my friend.
There's a
I have watched too much Fringe.
You have.
There's a universe where
Comfortable, we'll be jumping into picks and bans. But yeah, on tournament lives now, what a daunting task. Not only do you have to win the third game in the series to qualify for finals, your reward for doing so is to face SK Telecom. Like,
that's right.
How do you mentally prepare for that?
There is no way to mentally prepare for it. I think, you know, I mean, if you're RNG, if you're Fnatic, you kind of just turn your brain off as far as who you're going to play in the final. I mean, this is the game they have to worry about right now. You know, SKT is out there for whoever wins this one, but this is the game that matters right now to each of these teams. So forget SKT, you know, forget they exist, concentrate on this game, and then if you get there, then try to pretend you're playing against somebody else.
Turn off nameplates.
That's right, turn off nameplates.
I do that every game for the record. It's like 3 extra pixels.
I actually would advise all pro players to do that, because just in general, it's a lot easier to call out specific champions in the game and have it be instantly recognized in comms if you're calling targets, as opposed to player names, which I think is silly for any team to do. There's no reason to let anything get into your head, just like any other game at that point.
Yeah,
I like that. Great advice from the expert desk. It's becoming some great nuggets of information. Picks and bans underway. Lissandra, Gragas, Cogmore from Fnatic, Nidalee, and Jhin. Notably, Lee Sin and Nautilus are still up.
Yeah, but that Jhin ban, I mean, we're not surprised. And there's a Zed ban too, so RNG taking Monty's advice here and taking out some of those picks they may not have as much experience against right now. So what will the first pick be for Fnatic? They wanted blue side. They wanted this first pick. The Kalista is available. They could go for it. Nautilus available too. They've got a lot of choices, actually.
So in game 1, with Fnatic 1, they were on the red side. And their first rotation was Alistar Gragas. Gragas is not there. Alistar is there.
Yeah, the thing, though, is they may take the Lulu again, but I just think this is a mistake. If they're going to run the Lulu mid on Febvin again, some of Fnatic's most inspiring wins in this tournament have come off of really big carry performances by Febvin, and we know he can do it on more champions than just Zed. So having him on a more supportive carry, tough option, but they're going to mirror the draft that we had in game number 2 of this series. Question is Royal going to go for an early pick Kog'Maw again? Because if they don't, they have to be worried about Fnatic running Juggernaut.
Monty, do you think they're going to, the possibility of pulling a fast one is there? Lissandra's been banned by Fnatic, and that's something we've seen teams do when they want to run LeBlanc. And I mean, technically you could flex Lulu.
Yeah, you could do that. I think the most important pick here is not the Lee Sin, but the Gragas, because if you don't take the Kog'Maw now, you're running the risk that Fnatic is actually going to Juggernaut you. And Gragas is one of the most, he's one of the best champions for actually disrupting Juggernaut, because you can simply flash E forward, body slam forward into an ultimate,
Well, I don't think it's going to be Master Yi Teemo. This isn't Korean solo queue that I play in all the time. But you're right. I mean, now the question is, does Fnatic feel like they can handle a composition like Juggernaut?
Oh, the Kog'Maw's banned. This is...
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
Silly. But yes, the Kalista now still available. Kalista isn't the best with Lulu either. Lucian would be a better choice as long as it's built a little bit differently.
Yeah, well, we saw Fevin hover over that LeBlanc for the moment, the TFN option as well. Have to imagine that probably the Lucian's going to come in at some point, but Kalista's still available. That's kind of one of the shocking things to me right now, is that we're this far in the draft and nobody's taken Kalista yet.
The Jhin banned, it is rather odd. Looks like they are considering running that Lucian again.
Thresh Kalista, I think it's could work very well. Yep, there we go.
Now you mentioned that they played a Lulu Kalista game earlier this season, Quick Shot.
Yes, sir. It went very, very well, but they only ever did it once. And a lot of the time it was banned away and taken away from them. So all eggs in the Reckless basket.
Oh, we didn't even talk about Corki still being available. That's going to get grabbed for RNG. See where that one ends up.
Well, they have a chance to run a poke comp here, and I think this is the right pivot in the draft for Royal. You can take the Corki now. You already have some pretty decent disengage. You don't have the Gragas. Really, the Lee Sin here, I think, was just a denial pick from Spirit. They just don't want him playing that champion and able to make plays onto their backline. But they can still be caught out by the Gragas here, especially running 2 AD carries. Braum is off the table already. We saw the Thresh locked in, which means that they don't have a lot to stop Royal's poke composition. Of course, the Mystic Shots and the Rockets raining in.
Yeah, so the final 2 picks over to Fnatic right now. Stop playing with my heart like that, Cly. Just pick it. If you're gonna hover over it, pick it.
Up until very recently, Kasing would hover Zillion every single game, and that played with my heart. Now Zillion became meta, and it's even more like confusing now, because initially it was a troll, and I was like, that's fine, you can just ignore it. But now Zillion's actually being played across the world, and it drives me up the wall, because you never know, is it just Kasing being Kasing, or is it like actually going to be a thing?
See, it's easier for me, because I know nobody's ever going to play Blitzcrank again. So that takes a little bit of the edge off, at least.
Yeah.
So it could be Trundle Elise. I could see that. But the Gragas is still available. What do you think about although it's hard to like really use Gragas in against such a mobile set of damage dealers.
Yeah.
And he was banned too. That also makes it really hard.
Really hard to use it. Yeah.
Near impossible.
I know.
I'm an expert, guys.
I like the Elise. If Spirit can play at the same tempo that he was playing Elise in, you can do similar things, albeit just not as effective.
I'm going to see that Nautilus come in again. Gamsu, he was good on the Nautilus in those team fights. He did have some pretty poor teleports that gave up some kills in the last game. However, in this one, it's again a situation where they put so much on Reckless. And this is ridiculous that to try and use a Lulu Kalista combination to take out this particular composition, because they really don't have engage besides a Thresh Hook and an Elise Cocoon. And they don't have the best wave clear in the side lanes early, so the 4-1 split can be very effective against what Fnatic's doing. They should have, Royal should have enough disengage to use the Corki and the Ezreal simply to take down turrets.
Yeah, how do you handle the split push from this
I really don't like this draft from Fnatic. They've got a strong lane, especially with the Kalista and Thresh. But if we see a similar lane swap to what we saw last time, they'll be able to hide the Ezreal for long enough to hit that power spike and take over this game. I really feel that this is suboptimal, and it just didn't work. They were too good at picking off Reckless in the last game, and they have champions again that they can outplay you on. Alistair and Lee Sin can remove Reckless from this team composition, and if he goes out, the rest of the team is just dead. There's no more damage there to follow up.
Does that sound like a prediction?
It sounds like a pretty good prediction to me. I mean, I think it's the same problem that Fnatic had in game number 1. I can't argue with this. It's true. They're going to be in a situation again where, you know, if Reckless falls, they're going to not really have any more damage to use.
So, Monty, just to confirm, you are predicting RNG to win this game and advance to the finals. That means it's confirmed. Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with the deciding game of Fnatic versus Royal Never Give Up. I like that.
deciding match between Fnatic and Royal Never Give Up, a very important one. Hello, Katowice, thanks for staying with us, of course, and why wouldn't you, as this match is going to be an absolute cracker for Fnatic, gentlemen. Reckless and Clio, we do have the Kalista Thresh bot lane. Deficio, surely a good sign for them. You mentioned off stream, they need standard lanes.
Yeah, Fnatic is drafting a composition again where they have 3 pushing lanes and a jungler who is stronger pre-level 6. If it is a lane swap, RNG gets to avoid these lane matchups. They also get to just have their jungler farm up to 6, and then they can start picking fights on even terms. If it is standard lanes, Fnatic should be able to push in every single lane, because mid, Lulu will just push, use a mana, recall, and then TP back to lane. Corki doesn't have the same luxury.
Yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment from Martin there. The entire early game kind of hinges upon that lane swap, because last game we saw how once the team comp, the late game started rolling up, or Fnatic made some mistakes, obviously RNG would win, and the same thing's going to happen this game. But Fnatic, they can just butcher this game completely by just finding the standard lanes, and they should be able to push in and win almost every lane in the early game.
It's a little bit of fighting here. So RNG has swapped top 2 games in a row now. Last game, Fnatic didn't mirror it, even though it was actually the same kind of situation, and I think there was a high chance they would find them up there. But then again, they maybe said, hey, we can beat them in a lane swap. In this game, you have that problem where it's basically 50-50 because there is no invading. Now Fnatic are swapping top.
Getting mind-gamed.
Exactly, they're trying to find this 2v2 lane, and they think they've gone top lane. Now going to realize very soon it is not the case, unless Fnatic is actually walking back. So they're also mind gaming it and being like, oh, if there's a ward here spotting us, maybe we can move around it. They will get 2v2.
They're down at camp though.
They just don't want to get a camp. That's going to be an issue.
And that completely screws over the lane momentum, because the main reason that Kalista Thresh beats Alistar Ezreal is because...
Oh, do they have time for it?
They're late.
It's going to be a delay.
It's still worth doing it though at this point though. At least the small one maybe.
Yeah, they just took the small one for everyone who... because the camera panned away. They took the small one, walked into lane. Grump is being taken, obviously, by RNG, and we get these standard lanes. Nautilus into Fiora as well. Is a situation where Nautilus will early push the Fiora. He's great early base damage, and he's doing fine for the first 20 minutes at least. It's once we get to late game, Fiora will really start taking over in this 1v1.
So the 2v2 for Fnatic, they've managed to secure it there. Managing to spot out, of course, RNG's duo down the bottom side.
Yeah, and if you look on the bottom lane, you can always see what would happen normally in this lane is that there's a tremendous amount of zone on Woosh and Mata here coming up from this double range lane with CC. So Fnatic, despite losing the camp, they still hit their power spike on level 2 first. And Mata can't even do the whole trick where you walk up and you take 1 auto to force the lane to push, because it's just so dangerous.
Yeah, of course, the threat of the hook coming in, not something RNG want to deal with here. Xiaohu for Vivian in mid going to be very interesting. Again, not on an assassin. We've seen for Vivian, like Monty, I think, said, pull out some great performances when he's been able to make plays. Now he's pushing again. Gamsu, just copying a little bit of love there from Looper in the top.
Yeah, but Spirit right here, being at the right side, though, he's shouting for Gamsu, making sure that at least he doesn't get ganked early, and he gets going in this Fiora Nautilus matchup, a matchup we've seen so many times so far in this tournament. It's really dependent on jungle interaction.
And again, when you have a top laner who wins the lane or does well in lane by pushing it early, he needs that jungle backup so he doesn't get camped. Getting the Rift Scuttler, also Thresh into Lee Sin. It's fairly easy for Thresh to avoid ganks from Lee Sin early on, and also much easier for dual lane with double wards to spot these ganks coming. So smart play early from Spirit, small things, but it does allow Gamsu to push out the lane and try and be a little bit of a bully against Looper. It will be very even in CS.
It's a very good trade here on the bot lane. The hook into the poke from the passive with Kalista, then respecting the counter engage, obviously, with a preemptive flay, putting Mata back, and then the reset on the revenge from Reckless. So that's a really strong trade here in the bot lane. That's what we're looking for. Kalista Thresh. Calm collected trades where you leave no opportunity of outplay on the side of Alistar Ezreal.
And because Alistar Ezreal has to surrender the early push and stay back at tower, it actually opens up for Clyde to roam, and he's already done it. He moved in and put this ward you see at the Grump, and Blue Buff spotted MLXG on it, and now Spirit is looking for him as well.
Yeah, MLXG inside the bushes where he did finish the blue off. So.
Oh, Spirit wanted to be just like a few seconds earlier to maybe stop that Blue Buff, but still they see the enemy jungler, gets up a bit aggressive, and now you know there's nothing on the top side because both junglers has been spotted, and Spirit controlling the river with another Rift Scuttler.
Pick that one up. It was, and well, actually had a little bit of early warning as well about Spirit. There was a ward placed over the wall for him. So, I mean, Fnatic, positive signs for that team at the start here, being able to shove some lanes across. You can see Gamsu coming out second best every now and then to Looper, who's trying to maybe exercise an early bit of aggression towards it Nautilus here.
Gamsu's basically using the minions to help him out. He saw that Looper dashed into 3 minions and a cannon. So therefore he's instantly saying, oh, I can actually hook you back in here and we can at least trade even in HP.
And that's obviously what explains the whole, why you need to be pushing your lane as Nautilus, because you will always have minion advantage. So when the enemy, who is stronger trading 1v1, does go for the trade, you just slow him down, use the CC, and then get the aid from the minions to really win that trade overall. And that's why it's important that Spirit then in the early game at least backs up Gamsu. This way is the safety to push up without getting ganked, because pushing always means overextending, but pushing also means hitting the tower. That's what Fnatic wants to do here. Use these push advantages, chip away at the towers, play some deep vision, and eventually catch somebody out.
MLXG with this pink ward though might be able to set up a gank. Gamsu is now overextending with no backup.
Definitely going to be no help for him. Vivian doesn't have teleport. Gamsu though, good dredge line to get away there. He read that well. MLXG not able to close.
It's a very good ward though, the pink ward in Tri-Push. I really like it for top lane because it sets up these very easy ganks, and it's very hard for enemy top lanes to go clear out the pink ward because he has to risk face-taking an enemy jungler. Spirit though, he's going to mirror just on the bottom side, and it forces Bush away.
Because look where Mata was. Mata walked to his own red buff to place a ward, then backed off, and now he ran back bot, completely leaving Wush alone. So this opens up the bot. AD carry to be zoned by Spirit here. Half the tower just disappears, and I think that's
Free damage, boys.
That's something we have to point out. That's a mistake from Mala. You can't afford to already play in a losing lane to again go for a single ward in your own jungle.
And this is again also why these standard lanes are so important for Fnatic, because you can keep pushing up the lane, 2v2 bot lane, Clyde can keep walking into enemy jungle, place a ward, and when you've seen the entire bot side jungle, if you don't see the enemy jungler there, you know he's top side. Oh, just to get a bit of extra damage coming in, and then you can constantly just kind of figure out where Lee Sin is, because if he's not showing bot lane on Grum or blue buff, well, then he's on top side of the map. Gamsu has to play safe then, and then suddenly Fnatic can play more aggressive and keep getting hits on this tower. Eventually, they will kill the bot lane tower, then they will swap Reckless and Clyde to the top lane and just do exactly the same and start snowballing these early towers, and that's how they gain their goal advantage, and then suddenly this comp will not lack damage.
Yep.
Once we go full late game, it becomes harder and harder though.
Yeah, very big mid-game spike here for Fnatic. Obviously, once these lanes get longer too, we can send February in the side lane and roam, because this time he does bring the teleport to the table, and he is going for Frost Queens again. So when RNG overextend, this will be maybe try and equalize these lanes. Fnatic will have to look for picks, and they'll need a lot of picks, because obviously once we go even into the late game, RNG have shown more proficiency in team fights, and obviously solid late game damage.
Really big difference though in the pick and ban phase, and very important changes. Also why Fnatic picked the blue side and could first pick this Lulu was banning away Gragas, especially because it gave RNG that option to have a engage together with Mata, where you can just flash onto the AD carry, knock him back with either headbutt from Alistar or the ulti from Gragas, and then suddenly the AD carry gets killed. So I really like that ban, knowing that, okay, we're gonna most likely first pick Lulu, and they would then have taken Gragas in every single situation, remove that part, and also remove an insane AD carry who's sitting in the backline killing your tank.
Lee Sin can do similar things, but it's kind of hard mode. You have to fight the flank with the kick.
So much harder than
We saw what happened to Spirit trying to do just that as well in the last game. Often getting caught out and beat down 3 versus 1.
And also Thresh can counter a lot of it with his play coming in, so definitely more options for Fnatic to protect Reckless, but we are still in the same situation where going full late game, Fiora will be a super split pusher who will just take over one lane, Ezreal scaling up so well. It becomes harder and harder for Fnatic, but I definitely think it's closer in the late game compared to last game where we had that massive front line against the Lucian comp. It's just impossible for Lucian to do anything.
Perhaps possibilities here for Reckless, of course. He did get belted around a lot in that last game and wasn't given an opportunity to stand still, let alone actually auto attack.
Yeah, he was kind of a ragdoll in that last game. Got knocked around, up, down, left, right. Barely could get an auto attack off.
RKO'd every time he walked into lane to try and fight. I mean, still there's possibility for that to happen, as we sort of already have said, with the Alistar still present for Mata. And of course, the Lee Sin of MLXG. But still, this lane on the bottom side, they haven't taken that tower, Fnatic, yet.
Now is the time, though, to start committing more and more to the bot side, because they've completely surrendered top lane. You can see there's double pink wards from RNG, and Gamsu sitting very far back in the lane. He's basically just trying to farm whatever he can and defend his tower. Instead of your Fnatic, you have TP mid lane, you have Elise to invade into enemy jungle. You need to start making plays around this bot side and force them off tower and take it down so you can start getting more auto turrets. RNG is reading it though, because that Lee's in there, and also Xiaohu was hovering around the bottom side.
Yeah, speaking about these pink wards, we see the hover there, we see RNG defending their pink wards in the brush. They have 2 in the top lane, but look at the one they have in the lane in bottom too. There. Hang on, we'll trade here.
We're going to go a little bit low as Xiaohu Valkyrie's back because he does have a feeling that Spirit's coming.
Yeah, that ward in the bottom lane, since nobody's dying, we can actually talk a little about. That's to block a TP ward. If Spirit does get an invade in and get a ward over the wall, or maybe Cly, that's generally where you put TP wards. So RNG very wary of the dive, because that's obviously what Gamster wants to do. He can't win 1v1 against Looper.
At least he can't kill him. They can just kind of stand there and hit each other in the head. This is step 1 though for Fnatic, push bot lane. Step 2 is then get into the jungle and place these wards we talked about earlier. There is Sidestone for Cly. Didn't get a whole lot of wards in though. I think actually Spirit also has no wards, so both support and jungler have 0 wards ready to place, and that's why they actually didn't gain anything for moving in here other than 1 camp. Did spot the Lee Sin. They know he's on top side now because Spirit is obviously looking at the bottom lane. And now you can push it in one more time. We talked about this. Apply pressure on the bottom lane. You need that tower down so you can start snowballing the game.
RNG have vision of that though. You can see Spirit sat right next to a ward there, even with the wolf just chasing him in there. So you can see that well and truly back off of this one, and they might even try and just harass Spirit a little bit here, but they've got to give this tower up. So Spirit doesn't have to enter the lane to apply enough threat for Fnatic to get the first tower of the game.
Yeah, don't want to stay on the tower when you're against double TP and Elise as well. Nothing you can do then, so that's the first tower for Fnatic. Push it out, you can either then go for Dragon, if you pushed out the lane and Ezreal is forced to sit and farm it, or you just reset everything and you just start going towards the top side and do exactly the same. And you want Nautilus then to catch that bot wave and defend the tower. But Dragon we take first, and then we recall after.
Did you see if Fnatic get caught moving into the enemy red jungle? Or maybe get caught on this dragon fight here.
Yeah.
TP from Looper.
Could get a little bit nasty here. Cly going to thread the needle there, so Xiaohu is able to push forward on towards this one. Reckless sat right towards the back of this fight, and Spirit gets in there. He's going to land a cocoon on towards Xiaohu, but you can see Cly going to go very, very low. Looper waking up. He gets the first blood. Gamsu now has to get away from this one. At least Vivian and Spirit are there to flank him as he backs off. Fnatic might be in trouble. Spirit still doesn't have much mana. He's had to flash. True Shot Barrage comes through, does clip a bit of health off. He will still get away.
The cojones on RNG though to go for that fight against this composition. Seemingly random teleport. When a Kalista has this many spears in a dragon already, actually going for that contest is... It almost feels random, but they somehow managed to make it work again.
Well, again, with tanking Dragon at 12 minutes in, you will always take some damage, and you trying to finish off Dragon while the fight starts will always put Fnatic in a disadvantage. And again, this is why a lot of teams will just push out bot lane, recall in and go top and not set up this fight, because it gives RNG a chance now. Look here how Spirit is tanking Dragon. Reckless is fully focused on trying to finish the Dragon at this point. You're now stuck in the pit.
It's a misplay though for Fnatic overall. The hook
got
going
wrecked.
wide, Clyde not walking up to do the initial play and then getting pulled out, and it basically gets AoE down. The Dragon not being executed by Fnatic there, so I don't think they were just ever ready. They just assumed that RNG would never contest this. They felt in a position of control, and it was used against them, just like it was many times in the last game.
Whereas the thing is, it's completely reasonable to expect Fnatic to go for that dragon after they take that bottom outer turret of RNG. They had established vision on the blue side of RNG's jungle, and RNG's still more than happy to walk forward.
RNG is sleeping now, though. They're just leaving this mid lane completely open because they sent 3 guys on top side, expecting the push to happen.
You know it's not prepared when people halfway through their movement patterns change it and trying to path back. You saw Ezreal and Alistar turn around. Oh, never mind. So that's how you can spot whether people are actually doing yielding a turret on purpose or whether they kind of get caught with their pants down, is when looking at the minimap when they do this little stutter. Ah, damn, we should have been there. Yeah, too late.
Well, it's also going to be a rip turret here for Fnatic. Again, replicating their behavior in the last game. They are getting these objectives. They threaded them in between the lane swap last time. This time, they're just straight up rotating between them. That will go to Reckless, as always is the case for Fnatic.
And such a big difference by just having these standard lanes, because now RNG are pushed so far back on the map and now behind already, so you can take this Rift Hell without risking a potential 5-on-5. I say that though, but RNG
They somehow managed
would be the kind of team to fight it.
I don't think there's actually many teams in Europe that would make that play where, you know, when Fnatic's on that dragon already with like...
Oh, no.
20
That's why
spears.
they just jumped in and took it.
Yeah, that's part of RNG's strength, that they just surprised you with their decisive decision-making when it comes to team fighting. They force it when seemingly the correct play for many other teams is just to wait, you know, cross-map, trade.
Well, RNG showing that maybe it was the correct play, at least for them in that case.
If it works out, it's always...
Exactly right. You can't be proven wrong there.
I think RNG here in this situation though, trying to opt into a 2v2 on top lane now, and you're again defending is actually the wrong play to make, because instead of trying to match what Fnatic is doing by pushing in bot lane with your AD carry and support and then just taking tier 1 tower for tier 1 tower, you're now just gonna get slowly pushed down again. And whenever you're defending in this meta, you're technically losing because you never get any deep vision in at all in the enemy jungle. Like, look at Fnatic's jungle here. There's absolutely nothing. The river is completely warded up with pinks. And Fnatic can constantly just move in and place wards because RNG opted in to take the 2v2 top, even though they know they're losing it. So I think for RNG, it would have been better to stay bot lane with Alistar Ezreal and just take tier 1 for tier 1 and get something, and then you can get deep vision on the bottom side at least.
The only risk is that they want the safety from the tower. Alistar maybe doesn't want to face check into the full dark area. Because by the time you kind of secure the area with your wards, you need to base to refill your sidestone.
But they would see like Reckless and Ply on top side of the map, so technically there shouldn't be much threat on the bottom side. Instead though, they are just trying to slow the game down. That's basically all RNG is doing. They want to slow the game down, and that's why they take it.
But like you said earlier on, we are going to see the dual lane for Fnatic rotate to top. Reckless, again, he has the Rift Herald buff, and that's exactly why he keeps being fed that. The amount of push he can create, of course, in a very short space of time is going to be putting RNG under the pump. You can see they've actually swapped whoosh back towards the top side as well for now, and Marta's on his way.
It's greedy by RNG. If they end up losing this tower for nothing, then they fall even further behind without getting anything in return, because Fiora is not going to kill the bot lane tower, but
if they hold, though, it is the better situation.
Exactly.
So the extremes are really, really far apart. You know, if you hold the tower, it is fantastic, but if you lose it, it comes at a greater cost.
Fnatic, though, might be saying, hey, we actually want to pick up dragons, so we get those 5 dragons potentially rolling, so we want to abandon top lane now and take it. RNG has so far been successful, slowing down the game, but then again, Fnatic is not hard committing to top side, because Spirit is on bottom side here for honestly absolutely no reason other than setting up for this potential first dragon for Fnatic, but it's slowing down the tower pushing, which is the main objective. 5 dragons should never be the main objective for your team.
Spirit, Faviven might be looking for the no worries play. Yes, the Cocoon and Matata, but no follow-up. You see Faviven backed away very, very quickly.
Spirit kind of wanted to go for Looper there, see if he can find himself behind him, but that's never really going to work if you play against a top laner that has a bit of an idea of what he's doing. Perhaps he felt like he couldn't force in the top lane. Fnatic have been moving back and forth a couple of times. MLXG shadowing those lanes, and right now, because Fnatic was so hesitant and honestly too afraid, RNG, they got the group in the mid lane and they're setting up for second dragon. They want Fnatic to come here, they want to fight.
Fnatic again should just stay top like for the last 2 or 3 minutes and have Spirit on top side of the map, and they've already chunked down this tower. Ignore this dragon, don't play around bot side with Gamso, he's just sitting and farming 1v1. They will still get some damage on it now because RNG decided to move away, and now we are in that situation where RNG is not really getting anything but time.
And this may be like the opposite of what happened on the dragon. When RNG passed towards that second dragon, maybe they expected everybody else on the map to say, oh, dragon's up guys, let's go fight there. Instead of Fnatic just get free push in the top lane, RNG path back towards it to watch Fnatic take it and then end up doing nothing.
And this is why normally you would mirror the play and you would have taken this bot lane tower. Instead, Gamso says, thank you very much, I'll take some more farm. And we're now 3 towers to 0.
Is this purely a stall strategy from RNG to get past those mid-game power spikes from Fnatic? Is that why they're allowing them just to walk in and snatch up their weeps?
I mean, they respect Fnatic where they're strong, but it's just, I think it's more poor decision-making. Objective trading should be their goal. If they really want to stall, I mean, what do you rather have, you know? Give Fnatic 1,000 gold and get 1,000 yourself, or give Fnatic 1,000 gold and watch them take it.
And Looper, I think, it was freezing in the bottom lane as well. He's not trying to push on towards that tower.
Story of this game for RNG.
Oh dear.
Fnatic in prime position now obviously becomes a little bit more difficult when you now have to take the tier 2 towers. A lot higher chance for RNG to try and maybe collapse on you and flank you with the Lee Sin Alistar. And that's where you start playing side lanes more than anything else, and you push every single lane at once. And when RNG sends someone to defend without teleport, you make a cross-map play. And that's basically what Fnatic is looking for. Take Rift Herald, push up mid, push up top, push up bot lane. You have double TP. And you have actually a lot of tools to dive towers. If someone is standing alone at a tower, Elise, Kalista, Thresh, I mean, these 3 players are very good at diving towers very safely.
Yep. They have double reset on the turret shots as well. Elise can repel up, and Clyde can get face call backwards, obviously changing the target of these turret shots, which means you can dive for like, what, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds without really risking death. We see a flank here from MLXG, he's going around. Feblin has teleport.
He has to push the bot lane a lot harder, though. He's kind of hovering around because he has very little vision, he feels. He doesn't want to overextend and end up dying. It does buy time for RNG, though, to set up a potential team fight because that bot lane wasn't pushed.
Crew not missing, but Xiao Hu instead might want to come forward. Now the teleport being drawn out of Fnatic. And RNG seem happy enough with just baiting that in.
A missed opportunity here. Face check coming in. Both Cocoon and Hook go wide. And that kind of kills the momentum here because that wave that Feblin was building up, he could still be there split pushing, but he was so afraid that his team would need his ultimate in time.
And now a TP is gone, so that makes the 1-3-1 so much harder to execute. It's good for RNG, it slows down Fnatic.
Yeah, what seems like a very, very small play where nobody dies and not much happens, this is actually a very crucial phase of the game, and RNG take a considerable step towards the late game here by forcing that teleport.
Because now suddenly you don't have to worry too much about side lane and you can constantly threaten this flank, and that makes it harder for Fnatic to push up on towers. It makes it harder for Fnatic to maybe dive and get that one kill that breaks the defense from RNG. So super, super important, and there was Febiven not having enough information to push out that bot lane that allowed RNG to then say, oh, look how far back he is. Move mid now, and we can force a potential fight or at least a teleport.
Yeah, or not having the faith, or maybe somebody panic call, TP, they're fighting. Because Malta was threatening the flash headbutt pulverize combo there on a dragon being set up. RNG looking to contest, so RNG wants to bite out that one. Spirit gets the lantern.
There is a fairly clean take for Fnatic. That's their first dragon of the game. We may not be seeing them looking for that 5-dragon push, but again, they have been pretty sharp on those objectives.
Opens up the mid lane slightly.
Look at V teleporting. We're past 20 minutes. Home guards is available, so that's why he's waiting in base.
This is again RNG's chance to get just a little bit. They want to see if they can get at least a buff away, a camp maybe, see if Fnatic is too slow on recalls and they can get a tower, but Fnatic is already back here.
Spirit already being sped up, coming forward, does get the cocoon on towards Marta, but he's going to follow it up anyway with a bit of damage. Marta at least can use Unbreakable Will, but he's super low already. Here comes the fight, the box is up, Marta's been caught. Looper there, teleporting in. Why on earth? He might be caught as well by Gamsu. He's snared up, but look at the damage coming in. Whoosh, Xiao Hu, look at the damage onto Clyde. Forbidden out towards the backside, they're so low. And Looper, he's cleaning up. Spirit force to flash over the wall. Whoosh, he gets on towards Clyde. Reckless and Forbidden back to back, getting it done. Looper, careful, he's going to come in from the side. He blows Reckless up, and now Gamsu has to try and team up on towards this Fiora. The Spirit's there. Cocoon and Matata, no worries, mates.
Yeah, RNG's dependency on teamfight being used against them, even though the fight starts off by Malta being picked off, they still opt in fully 4-5, even using the teleport, not leaving Looper in the bot lane. And honestly, Fnatic obviously at this point is much stronger. Even misplaying some of the fight, they still win out.
But RNG here making some split calls very clearly. Mata didn't want to ulti instantly, so like, fight starts. This is RNG after this dragon being taken. They think, okay, let's try and get at least something. Notice Mata here, how late he's gonna ulti. Because the call right now is saying, let's disengage. If he ultis instantly, they could actually TP in and try and take the fight, but now he's just completely useless.
Yeah, let's ulti down, kick down. Looper enters the fight when Ezreal, ulti, Alistar, and Lee Sin are all down. And then obviously, Fnatic, they kind of split up here. This is really cool from Whoosh and Xiao Hu, but they miscalculate the damage on Febiven. Febiven does a fantastic job stalling here and ends up going back into that fight later on. If that Q hit him, maybe the fight could have turned around. But this is honestly very greedy from RNG. Yes, we know you can team fight. You're very strong at it, but it's too early to really opt into that play.
I think legit it is the split call. Them going, let's disengage. So Mata, in that case, is not just instant ulting and committing with the Q to basically start the fight and have TP coming in. It ends up being Mata saving ulti, pops it very late, and then TP comes in when it's kind of too late to turn it around. And also, people remember, RNG last game could zone out Reckless every time because they had Poppy, Gragas, and Alistar. So different in this game with Fiora and Lee Sin as the 2 picks instead of Poppy Gragas. It's a lot easier for Reckless to dance around with lifesteal, with the shield, catching MLXG as well.
Important pick off now. MLXG wants to back away, but it's a flay back on him. He's going to go down. The Ren stacks find their market. Reckless again. Clyde going towards Xiao Hu, but no follow-up there. Gamsu now. It's Hook City. Population Xiao Hu as he gets over the wall. At least he's knocked up. But now Forbidden coming forward. Marta falls. Whoosh might not be far behind as well. Giant growth was used there. Great use of that one. And another 3-0 Fnatic now starting to take big strides out in front.
Another good start here for Fnatic, catching out RNG, saying we are strong right now. Double item Kalista. We've taken all these outer turrets. Remember, RNG is still sitting on 0 turrets because they kept trying to just delay instead of matching what Fnatic were doing. Corki has to do some serious damage here to do anything, and that's not going to happen. And again, Kalista can play aggressive because the front line isn't there, and then suddenly these protect a non-hyper carry becomes so much more effective.
And this is what we were talking about earlier, and the analysts mentioned it too, is just Fnatic, they're at the prime power spike right now. 20 minutes, 24 minutes into the game, if you can find a fight, this is where your base damages on all your carries are still relevant. Nautilus still deals enough damage relative to his opponents. Lulu has very good base damages and utility. Every single member on Fnatic can produce instances of crowd control, like knock up on Lulu, Fade Skull from Kalista, Thresh is a CC bot, Nautilus and Elise combined too. They can lock any target down as opposed to RNG. Their strength is later in the game, like raw damage.
And boys, we are back in the 1-3-1. Double TP, push up the mid. You got Baron buffs, minions in every single lane. Fiora down here sitting and holding a lane. That's okay for Fnatic. They can just play 2 lanes instead and take topside jungle. And you just want to get in towards these towers here, start poking away with your minions. And if RNG ever takes a fight, then Fnatic can see it with their wards, have double TP if needed, and as long as they don't randomly split up completely, Fnatic will take down these outer turrets.
Baron definitely going to be paying dividends here for Fnatic, and they set it up beautifully from one pick to another to another. Now grouping up again towards that mid.
But what a shift in approach for Fnatic overall. No more late game oriented scaling compositions that require
I love this.
a lot of finesse and execution. Also require a completely different jungle style than what Spirit is just strong at. They're really enabling Spirit, who then in turn enables Gamsu, and that actually gives the freedom for the bot lane to play a little more aggressive. So I really like this style that Fnatic has chosen to use and kind of figure out at this event, because they're approaching their 10th, this is their 10th game, this tournament, I believe.
Yeah, 10 in 2 days.
10 in 2 days. I mean, in the European LCS so far, they played like, what, 14 games?
Yeah,
So.
getting close, and it's good for Fnatic. More experience. We have to question that pick and ban phase they showed earlier in the EU LCS, but this is what Fnatic were hoping for in the last game as well, if they'd gotten standard lanes.
Yeah, they now have more experience with Cly on the support than they do with Noxiac. So we finally see a bit of a growth spurt, you know?
Here's a Baron power play for you, gents. About a 10k gold lead, and that more, in fact, for Fnatic. Huge for this part of the game, and 3 turrets just in a blink of an eye disappearing for RNG.
And now being a shot caller is very, very easy. All right, guys, we're about 11,000 gold ahead, 12,000 even. Let's get that second dragon so we get the burn on towers. Let's push up our 3 lanes with double TP. If we don't manage to find an opening because RNG doesn't make a mistake, let's just take another Baron.
I mean,
once we have that Baron, we finish the game.
Any call is the right one. It's like when you get the first prize in like a shooting gallery and you can pick any of the nice toys on the top rack, because you want the tower? Sure, we'll take the tower. You want a dragon? We can do that. We can also wait for Baron, you know? Pick at the litter. All you gotta do is just avoid dying.
Just don't completely randomly start tower diving on RNG. You don't have to. You got the burn now. Get that Baron buff next if you want to play it super safe. And then the wave clear, it's a Corki. It's not going to do anything. You're going to get these towers down, and then you open up the map completely.
I mean, there's no way that RNG are going to take this lane down. We know that they want to fight their way back into a game, but they've got a bit of a poke composition here as well. How can they maybe sort of enable themselves to get back in or create positive fighting circumstances?
Fnatic needs to mess up.
Yeah, or RNG need to get the outplay with a flank, and that in itself would be Fnatic messing up, allowing that.
Yep.
But as long as Fnatic have their eyes on Lee Sin and Alistar, it's nigh impossible for RNG to outplay, because Fnatic's flashes are all coming available right now, and whenever Lee Sin goes in for the kick flash, you just respect flash that. And we'll kick you out at the fight. At worst, you re-engage, you win.
There is no jungle for RNG anymore. It's 100% Fnatic's everything other than the base of RNG, so you just have the pink wards in there to spot a potential flanking TP coming. And as long as you have that covered, you can just push in all these lanes so safe. TP does take a bit of time. We might see RNG just try like a flash Q from, or Q flash from Mata on the 3 guys in mid lane and be like, okay, Lulu isn't here, Nautilus isn't here, they need to TP in. Instant just engage, try and pop a target. Problem is you have 280 carries who is going to struggle getting to that backline instantly. But I think that's probably the only play for RNG at this point, is like try and flash engage on the 3 guys in mid and wait for these TPs to charge, because they take a few more seconds.
Here's another push towards that mid inhibitor turret here. Decent damage done by Fnatic. The Baron buff has now expired, so they're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, they're going to wait for the next Baron, though, because if you see how much damage they've been able to produce on his turrets, top lane is on 95, mid lane like 85%, bottom lane 100% HP right now. Thank you, observers, for confirming that. It basically means that Fnatic with Baron buff didn't even manage to hit the towers. So without Baron buff, they're not going to be able to do that. So their next goal will be just to repeat the strategy, get the waves in the base, layer the vision, and then bait RNG to step out and then kill them.
They got 3 inner turrets, of course, with that Baron buff. I guess they expired before they got...
Get the Nexus, man.
I mean, the outer turrets are expected to fall at this point, but it's just breaking the base.
Yeah.
The hardest part.
Yeah, so now we take our pink wards, we put them on Baron, and Daylor right now
He's happy.
will be a little bit angry for a second because he looks at his mid laner, keeping his Dorn's ring instead of getting another pink ward, and he probably writes down his notebook. No pink wards, no food will be the new saying.
It has to rhyme, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's okay, Deficio, I liked it, man.
Well, I'll make my own Daylor memes.
Can't just do that, man.
Xiao just backing up there as well. Actually used the package to get away as a contest on towards the red. Looks like MLXG has managed to secure that one for himself. 1 minute and 15 seconds. That's the most important number for you guys right now. Well, actually also 12K, but 1 minute and 10 seconds till that Baron is up. Fnatic, obviously, for them, it's a pretty standard trajectory. The flowchart only has 2 bubbles. 1, get Baron. 2, win game. And they're trying to facilitate for a safe take. You can see they're establishing this vision, pushing these waves in as well, and they're maintaining control of what used to be RNG's jungle.
Yep, hasn't been in the jungle for about, what, almost 10 minutes, I would say. Fnatic been able to farm everything. Now Baron is gonna spawn, 40 seconds, that's all we're waiting for. We got pinks around, we can spot RNG coming in. There is no wards for them to TP to. They have to just run straight towards Fnatic and this Baron.
Looper now as well, trying to exercise as much pressure as he can from his spot, but his lane opponent has a lot more money than he does, and the split push does become hard, and Gamsu seems to be matching every step of the way. Whoosh and MLXG, I mean, pretty obvious for RNG what the next step is. It should be for anyone, actually.
I actually just went and checked. No pink, no drink is the best one that came out.
Oh no, that's good.
That's good.
Oh, MLXG doesn't really care here. Baron is alive, you have a Kalista, so there's no 50-50 smites in this game, and we're just watching a team play out this almost perfectly so far. I would actually say perfectly.
Does it make you happy, Warren?
I think it's beautiful to watch some good macro League of Legends. Now we just gotta see them not fail this Baron here, and that's about it.
Gamsu.
Gamsu caught in the middle. The teleport was followed by Looper. It's a hook onto Xiao. He's had to back away. Gamsu soaked up so much damage, and there's the box. RNG caught inside of that one, but Whoosh takes down Gamsu first. Spirit, though, is still in the middle. A lot of CC coming away from Fnatic here, but Faviven gets jumped on, knocked up. Marta with the late flank may just work out. No,
Whoosh.
Reckless turns it around. Whoosh is gone in a whoosh of air, and now Looper trying to chase down Spirit. Should have him if he's going to have any say in this matter, but RNG have already lost 3. Fnatic lost 1.
RNG actually had a chance to win that fight here because Fnatic want to start the Baron and then have RNG walk all the way into towards the Baron, and then you TP in with Gamsu. Him going in so early allowed RNG to get a proper team fight here. And then Whoosh in the end gets so greedy for Reckless. He
Trying to
jumps
Typical,
forward.
man. When you see the typical, you go for it, but holy cow, RNG, their ability to keep these fights close as they close, they lose their inhibitor right here. They were down 12,000, over 12,000 gold,
Yeah.
and they still managed to end that fight with basically everybody of Fnatic on 20% HP.
That late flank from Marta in there could have turned things around. It was playing pretty quickly here. Teleport used actually to get, I believe it was Faviven, up towards that inhibitor just to make sure that they could take it. Maybe for a second, Fnatic thinking about trying to push through and finish it off, but it's only 30 odd minutes in. They'll be happy enough with the Baron here. True Shot Barrage is not really going to yield much.
He might need to, if he can kick Reckless out, he can actually go for the smite contest.
Too late, MLXG goes in. Another Baron for Fnatic, and MLXG, of course, has to give his life up to the gods of the Rift. Fnatic, that's an important Baron. That's what they needed, the flowchart. Now we're on to bubble number 2.
You got to go for it, though. It's not a 50-50, but the thing you're hoping for is that Reckless is rending, and then the smite comes in from Spirit after. But normally you would always smite first and then rend on, like, what, 1,500 HP, and then you secure
What
it.
these teams actually end up doing is they decide on a number, say 1,700, and once the Baron drops to 1,700, they both use their ability at the same time. And basically, if you know the number and your opponent doesn't, obviously you're better prepared. You just try and combine your damage instead of waiting for one or the other.
Mr. offering a lot more than just a bit of CC and damage to the team, clearly. And now, if this inhibitor's going to fall down, it's a Baron up. Fnatic moving forward, and it seems very, very hard to shift, but kudos to them now as they are going to back off for a moment, clear the ward. Won't any TP flanks come in to ruin their day. And probably head towards the bottom and try and create an opportunity there as well. A Dragon as well. This is Fnatic just tying it all up in a nice pink bow.
I mean, this Dragon doesn't really have any value. 'Cause,
Hey man, movement speed is important.
Yeah.
just gonna take it on the wave. They have the wave pushing on bot side now. And really for Fnatic, it comes down to these standard lanes, and it comes down to RNG trying to stall the game by keeping 2v2 laning going on top side as well, and therefore gaining absolutely nothing. And then once you get into that first team fight, you're naturally already behind in gold, and therefore it makes it so much harder for you, even though you might be the better team fighting team, to win it. And then it just snowballs completely out of control.
That tower is just going to get melted down. That is the 9th tower for Fnatic coming up. And Gamsu just rooting MLXG on the side there. Not the signal for an initiation, but Fnatic are more than happy just to make it a clean push through. Marta goes in, no, this is RNG's final chance. Their last hope for this tournament. And MLXG out towards the back, he stays alive. Xiaohu knocked up, Forbidden gets the first. MLXG has fallen. Whoosh backing up, trying to kite away, but Reckless isn't stopping for anyone. He's going to get the Ren, he's going to get the finish as well. Forbidden with the triple kill. Fnatic have done it, they're pressed forward towards the Nexus. And with that final Baron and a very clean finish, Fnatic are going to the grand finals.
And this is the kind of game as a caller caster you like to see, where you can basically sit and point out almost any play or every play that's going to happen with how Fnatic is moving around lanes after towers go down, and they just do it spot on, didn't overextend, had one risky team fight in the end.
Yeah, the Baron fight is like the only thing that you could mildly criticize.
Everything else was spot on, and with the scaling from RNG and losing these lanes, not trading anything, there was nothing they could do. The map is just lost.
The big question is this Fnatic's final form, or will it be enough even to shake down SKT, Crepo?
Yeah, oh, there won't be enough. I think SKT will outclass Fnatic there, but looking at some of the, honestly, disappointed faces on the side of RNG, I think this is a good learning experience for both QG and RNG, though. Taking this back to their region, because they kind of got figured out very much so in a macro sense, and I think this could be a valuable lesson for them to bring back to the LPL.
We now have our grand finalists, ladies and gentlemen, but of course plenty to talk about in that game. Fnatic, nice smooth play, clean from the boys from Europe. Let's pass to our experts and they'll have a look at this one in a bit more detail.
Thank you so much, Shoutcasters. You can see Fnatic on your screens. Heading over to the booth to congratulate RNG, and it was a phenomenal performance from Fnatic. Really, straight out the gates, it felt like they were confident how to play their team comp, they were confident how to play the map, and they generated all the leads they needed.
Yeah, and both their wins were very clean today, it has to be said. Especially that game one was total domination in the lane swap. And I didn't think they were going to get the standard lanes in the second game, but they managed to get them. And then it was just a lack of cross-map trading, really, that sunk Royal Never Give Up here today. They refused to try and put any pressure on, try and take any objective whatsoever for what was being taken away from them. And when you lose the outer turret, in all the outer turrets in standard lanes, it is, without getting anything in return, it is incredibly hard to make a comeback, especially against a composition as strong in the mid game as the one that Fnatic was running.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we were concerned a little bit about the damage that Fnatic would be able to do if they could depend on Reckless with that. But man, everybody else on the team stepped up. They did a good job of protecting him. Febiven just went insane on Lulu. And yeah, they didn't lose a single turret, I don't think, the entire game. And just an amazing performance in game number 3 for Fnatic. I'm really impressed. I mean, let's jump right into the replays. A lot to talk about, obviously. At, I believe it was 11:35. I'm just like acting like I got that number out of my head. I believe 11:35.
Just roughly.
Yeah, it was, well, speaking of rough, it was a little bit of a rough start for Fnatic, too. They did get jumped at the Dragon Pit, and it didn't go as well as maybe they were hoping.
No, and I think Royal, there was a little bit of initial damage here, but they were just faster on the play by getting Looper down and into position in that Dragon Pit first. And that was the major factor, because even though they were still waiting for this Ezreal and this Corki to come online, they still, 5v4 advantage, a little bit of damage taken from that Dragon to start things off. And that's going to be a one-team fight. They definitely did not expect an aggressive teleport, but they have to keep track of where Looper is in that lane to know if that's even possible, because he had just recalled in bot.
Yeah, I actually panicked after I saw that fight, wondering if Fnatic were going to be able to bounce back and out teamfight RNG. But guys, I've been talking about it all weekend. If you're using Google Chrome, you can actually use the plays.tv extension. Go check out the plugin. It just uses in Chrome. It'll record anything that you're currently streaming, and you can share it on social media. So if you have those team fights, whether won or lost, you can share them. Hopefully it's more wins than losers. It's not something I'm comfortable with these days, because I only ever lose that LP.
Wow.
But pull the second replay up, because as the game progressed, we saw those towers going down. We saw Fnatic earning the gold leads. And this team fight of Gamsu sort of chasing onto RNG and committing surprised me because of how clean and good it was.
And this, I think they brought it up perfectly in the cast. It was Mata not ulting fast enough. But look, we do have the Fiora come in here, but what I want you to watch is how well they split up. The depth charge is actually reposted right there, but notice that they split up around the riposte box. I think if that riposte hits 2 or 3 people in this tri-brush and gets that stun, this is a one fight for Royal all the same. But Fnatic, aware that the riposte is coming in, they don't give an opportunity to make the turn on the crowd control, and that is the big difference maker right here.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch Woosh in that fight too, because he tried to kind of chase Febiven around the side and had basically full health until the end, and he couldn't catch Febiven, tried to get back in. He was way separated from his team. Nice grab by Gamsu, and that was an easy kill on the Ezreal. That's kind of hard to lock down.
It really was hard to lock down, and it's not very hard for me to say this, because in an alternate timeline, Monte Cristo would have been 3 for 3 in predictions. But in the current timeline,
I ended up in the wrong universe, Trevor.
just open the door. Just open the door, go through that little passageway. You'll be fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine. But I do want to just mention this team composition from Fnatic, because we were quite critical of it in picks and bans. Built around Reckless, right? Fnatic got 17 kills. Reckless was involved in 17 kills. 4 secured, 13 assists. Febiven involved in 17 kills. Spirit involved in 15 of the 17. Cly involved in 16 of the 17. They were given all the time in the world to group, and when they grouped, they did it, dare I say, flawlessly?
Yeah, they played a very impressive game of League of Legends, but that's what happens when you get that advantage in the bottom side. You can push in the Ezreal and then just start to make plays elsewhere on the map together as a unit. So the standard lanes worked out wonderfully for them. They got the edge they needed. I think Crepo had a great point in the game that around 20 minutes, when you're still working off of base damages from Lulu, when you're still working off base damages from Nautilus, that this is still can go pound for pound. And then when you have a fed Kalista in the middle of all of that, just dealing an insane amount of AoE damage with a Hurricane, it will work. Unfortunately, Royal didn't make the counterplays necessary to get into that 4-1 split that they really wanted the whole game.
Before I get some closing thoughts from Doa, I know that the winners interview is already on stage. Let's then head down and meet the winners.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Joined by Febiven here after Fnatic made it to the grand finals here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We're not going to talk about SKT just yet. I'll do that at the end. First, tell me about the transition that your team has gone through and when it clicked yesterday, and now you're showing these different strategies. You have the different picks and bans. It's all coming together. What made it happen?
Yesterday, when we started the best of 3 against CLG and we lost the first game, I didn't even know it was a best of 3. And then I thought it was already over, but actually we were still in the series. And then we just never give up, and we just keep fighting. We improve throughout the series, and we improve from everything we fail. So that's why we're here now and in the final.
Because CLG won the first game, you're in the final of the Intel Extreme Masters. Why not? No, on a more serious note, this series was super interesting. You guys were so aggressive in that game 1, and then you had that beautiful adaptation in 2 and 3. Why, in the deciding game, did you decide to go for that high strategical game, you on the Lulu, instead of something like a LeBlanc, and try to go for that game plan?
Lulu is really overpowered right now, and I know that Martin is a really good Kalista, and basically when we get Lulu Kalista, we showed it previously in the last year. It's just basically overpowered, and then we have Nautilus top, which is just a big tank, and then their composition couldn't really teamfight us. So I think the second game we had a bit of a struggle in the draft because they had 3 tanks and then Kog'Maw, and we couldn't really kill anyone. But in the last draft, I felt like we had a better composition, and I think Lulu is just really OP, so I just play her.
All right, I'll go do that as well. Now we do have to talk about SKT. Of course, the mind travels back to the previous times you've met, especially at MSI when you pushed it all the way to 3-2. Of course, a different Fnatic now here. How do you go into that matchup? Do you keep thinking back of, oh, we almost had it? How does it work in your mind right now?
No, I usually don't think about the past. I just think about the present, and it's not really in my mind at all that we lost against them. It's a new best of 5. We're gonna try our best, and hopefully we can make it a good fight, because I really want to put a fight up in front of this amazing crowd.
Of course, yesterday taking home the head prize, Fnatic in Counter-Strike as well, so it's just up to you guys to take that cup. Thank you very much, Febiven. The best of luck. Fnatic in the finals. Talk some more about that, guys.
I absolutely will, Sharks. Congratulations to Fnatic to advance, and let's get some thoughts on the preview. Looking forward, Doa. It's your team SK versus Europe's team Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great finals matchup to begin with. I can't think of like a more hype final for this crowd here. It's going to be awesome, and I think Fnatic played really, really well against RNG, especially that last game. Everything was so tight from start to finish, and it's going to be interesting because against a team like SK Telecom that doesn't generally get leads in the early game, that does play a little bit more passively, after a game like that, do you have to kind of think about things a little bit differently too, to maybe try to avoid allowing Fnatic to get that kind of edge? I mean, SK Telecom is SK Telecom. They're the reigning world championships or championship team. You got to give them an edge. I think they're going to take it, but Fnatic, could put up a decent fight. Yeah.
I mean, Fnatic got those advantages because we saw in the 2 games that they won, because we saw Royal horribly misplaying the macro game. That is not an advantage that SK Telecom is going to give to Fnatic.
Probably true.
So I don't really think, and then when we see Fnatic lose, they're not team fighting as well as a team like Royal. They're not making the best mechanical plays. That is also a way they will lose to SK Telecom. So I'm expecting just a really quick 3-0.
Monte Cristo.
Killer Monte Cristo.
Hold on a second, because I will ask you to cast your mind back to MSI last year, where we had the pleasure of casting SKT versus Fnatic. Fnatic barely scraped out of groups. They rocked up with, this ragtag team that barely beat Unicorns of Love in their regional league.
That was a terrible fight.
And, Fnatic had all of these naysayers and all of these reasons as to why they were just going to get crushed. And they put up the first really good performance against a Korean squad, maybe ever. Maybe not ever's not fair. CLG EU put a good one recently, but I'll describe that anyways.
You nearly won a season of champions. Like
exactly.
You just made Crepo mad.
Yes, I just realized myself. I'm like, oopsie, made a mistake.
Yeah, that's a great point. But I think what the difference is that there was time to prepare for MSI. There was the time to develop after that Unicorns of Love final, and also there was a big switch in their pick and ban phase over the course. I don't think that necessarily we've seen terrible drafts from Fnatic this time. If we cast our minds back to what many people were commenting about, it was like garbage, like teleport top Lee Sin that they were playing, just these wacky.
Oh, I remember.
Oh yeah. So there was real reason to doubt Fnatic.
Yeah.